Hello and welcome to Bristol Sport TV's new series, Meet the Boss. Well, whilst we're all living life in lockdown, we thought it would be a good opportunity to find out a little bit more about our key partners and sponsors and how they came to be involved in our sporting group. We can find out a little bit more about how they're coping with the current crisis, but also how sport has become a key part of their business offering. Well, I'm pleased to say that joining me today is the Managing Director of Bristol-based recruitment company IO, Neil Willis-Stovold. Neil, welcome to you. Good to see you.
And you, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
No, it's great to chat to you. It's been great digging around, finding out a bit more about the background. Of course, Bristol is a bit of a hub for recruitment companies. Just tell us a little bit about the company and how you came to be established here in this city, because you do have a personal insight into sport in that your father was a professional cricketer.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Bristol, and Dad played county cricket for Gloucestershire for near on 18 years, I think it was, and then went on to be a member of the coaching staff. So played almost 650 games for the club, which is a lot more than I did, having a little flirtation with cricket for Gloucestershire for a while. But yeah, I've been around, travelled around a little bit with recruitment, and ended up back in Bristol about 5 years ago now.
So what was it that made you transfer sort of from the sporting world into getting, shall we say, a proper day job?
Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't my decision. After finishing university at Loughborough and being on a summer contract with Gloucestershire, didn't quite get enough runs and was released when I was 22 years old. So as opposed to kind of looking around at other counties to play for, I decided to go into the business world. And my first ever office job was a job in recruitment. Ended up working for that company for 10 years and living in London, living in Sydney, and then 5 years ago setting up IO with my two business partners back in Bristol.
As you say, you decided to make the leap to start up, and you did it with two other colleagues that you'd worked with previously. You're 5 years in, a young startup still, but I guess there's a lot of experience and relatables that you could take from perhaps your training as an athlete as well. You know, the things about, you know, performance related decisions and the training, the work ethic, the determination, all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mark and Tom, the other founders, actually set up a small recruitment business before I joined back in 2015. And we continually aim to try and be really high performing and really successful, which resonated with sport, obviously. The last 5 years have been a bit of a whirlwind. We've gone from 10, 12 staff to 115 now in Bristol. And we've grown other brands, and the group that sits above IO, Precision Resource Group, now has 5 companies underneath it, IO being the biggest of those. But absolutely, the key sort of parts we've taken from sport has been teamwork, has been that competitive nature, and everybody pulling together and striving for a goal over the next few years that we're trying to achieve.
Well, you've seen your business grow in the last 5 years. I think you've got more than 100 employees in the Bristol office. What was it that made you think, okay, now is the time to get involved with some sponsorship of professional sport?
Yeah, so we obviously done some entertainment and client entertainment for some of our key accounts, and we wanted to also reward some of our internal staff. So we actually went to the Man United Bristol City game at Ashton Gate. We're very fortunate to get tickets, and we're just really impressed with some of the corporate experience we had and the new stadium. And it really made us think, you know, this is a company or a business that we could look to partner with. We felt we shared a lot of sort of values with Bristol Sport when we took a little bit of a closer look, and the journey that Bristol City and Bristol Bears are on in terms of wanting to be elite and really high performing in their respective fields. And the journey, we've been down to see the Bristol Flyers, the journey with the new arena that's being built. You know, we very much see that resonating with our business in terms of trying to grow, trying to be very successful, and going on a bit of a journey. So it worked well on that level. And also, you know, having the box has allowed us to take some of our best clients. We've created some brilliant client relationships. We've taken some client relationships to the next level. And a little bit more selfishly, on a personal level, I've got twin daughters who are just madly getting into their sport. We've been down to Ashton Gate a couple of times to watch both the rugby and the football, and now being able to take them to the box. And you know, we've had some brilliant experiences meeting players, it's made me a lot more popular father, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of kudos for that, being able to walk them pitch side, because I think you guys came down pitch side in the QPR game at the very start of the season.
Yeah, that's right. It's probably one of the highlights since we've been involved. Bristol City beating QPR 2-0. And at the end of the game, Mark, Tom and I presented the Man of Match award to Benika Phoebe at the end. So it was brilliant experience. Got to mingle, meet some of the players, and obviously give a bottle of Thatcher's sparkling wine to Benika, which I'm sure he absolutely loved.
Who doesn't love a bottle of Thatcher's sparkling? It's a lovely little tipple, especially on a summer's evening. In terms of that game, of course, I think it was Adam Nagy was the other goal scorer. It was their first goals for the campaign. Of course, none of us knew what was going to befall us with the current crisis, but of course, more poignantly for Benika Phoebe as well. You must have followed what's happened with him, with first the injury and then, of course, the loss of his daughter.
Yeah, absolutely tragic. And having daughters myself, I can't even imagine what that would have been like. Obviously, thoughts were with him and his family. I think I was at the next game, the next home game, where I think the crowd gave him a brilliant reception, obviously in his absence. And obviously, can't think of anything, can't comprehend something like that.
No. And it is one of those moments where sport, there are so many times sometimes where something happens and you think it's bigger than just sport, and it does unite a community, isn't it? It is interesting how sport touches so many different walks of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And the people I've reconnected with and grown up with and not seen for years, but then met again down at Ashton Gate or through some of the experiences with Bristol Sport has been absolutely eye-opening since I've been back in the UK and back in Bristol. So sport is very much the glue that brings a lot of people together.
Yeah, cynically, one would say, if you got back in touch with a load of schoolmates I bet they did get back in touch when they found you had a box down here.
Yeah, we have. We've had to kind of juggle it between giving good experience to our clients and taking them on some experiences. Also, obviously, getting our staff into the box and enjoying it, but also, yeah, you do get a few more phone calls and texts during the week if there's a big game on the Saturday, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, you've mentioned your twin daughters there, and you said that about you've brought them here, of course, with the City Women as well. I believe they've gone down to a few of the City Women games. It's such a different time to, perhaps when I grew up, there really wasn't those female sporting role models, and it's probably quite important. I would imagine your father got you into cricket and showed you the ropes, but to be able to show your daughters, professional females, making a living from their sport, it's quite exceptional.
Yeah, it's brilliant. We've been down to Filton a couple of times and watched them last season, and then this season, having the first game of the season at home at Ashton Gate, we were able to take the box. And actually for the FA Cup 5th round against Everton, we got the whole of my daughter's team there, the Bristol Ladies Union under-11s girls team. They all came down and they had a box and the parents had the box next door. So unfortunately the result wasn't quite what we were hoping for, but it was a brilliant experience. Brilliant role models, and as you say, they there's a genuine career path for women in football and women in all sports now, which is brilliant, and certainly wasn't something when I was growing up. You
mentioned the Everton game. Yeah, it was a tough one. And of course, City Women have gone through a fairly tough journey. Frustratingly, just before the COVID crisis broke, they were climbing their way back up the table. And I think you might have caught some of the things that Tanya Oxtoby, the head coach, has been talking about how difficult this time off has been with this current crisis from a psychological point of view. Of course, she has a very strong psychology background. And is that something, from your workforce that you're seeing, this sort of mental toughness and resilience that a lot of people are sometimes struggling with?
Yeah, and I think it's absolutely prevalent in our industry as well, and certainly within our business. We're a relatively young dynamic, and our demographic is mainly probably 25 to 40-year-olds, and mental health and mental awareness is much more prevalent within that sort of demographic. And we've really seen, not just we had pre the lockdown, but certainly since the lockdown as well, it's put a lot more pressure on people, and there's been a lot more people reaching out for help. We actually put 8 of our staff, including myself, through mental health first aider training last year, and one of our chosen charities, is Changes. They're a peer support group in Bristol for mental health challenges. So it's very prevalent. We're very aware of it, and the more people speak about it, the more opportunity there is to help try and kind of provide support for people. But yeah, it's very, very prevalent, and even more so in lockdown, where people just don't have that normal interaction and normal collaboration that they do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and I guess, routine is such a part of everyone's life, particularly professional sports people. They are governed to the minute by their time of training and rehab and nutrition and all the rest of it. But suddenly, when you suddenly have a life without almost any formal routine, it does sometimes cut people a little bit adrift. They do feel astray. Have you found, because your recruitment company is sort of focused perhaps more in the tech sector as well, has it left you better placed to cope and reach out and help?
Yeah, I think so. It's helped that our operations team got us remote within sort of 24 hours. We went from 0 people working from home to 100%. So we've all got the tools. But then it has been, having to take conscious steps to try and make sure people are feeling integrated, involved, having a structure and supported. So we've got online training courses happening. Every team does a scrum board and regular catch-ups through the day. But still, you've also got to try and supplement and substitute for the fun parts. We're a really collaborative environment. We love sharing successes, socializing together. So not being able to do that has been really hard. So Friday afternoons, we sort of had our fun day Friday afternoon sessions where everybody, all 100 odd people, jump on a Zoom call, and we've done random activities from IO's Got Talent through the Keyhole, where people have sent in videos of their houses, and we've even had TikToks going around. And unfortunately, under a lot of duress, I was in a TikTok that my kids and better half sent in. So yeah, it's just trying to be fun. It's kind of keep things going, keep people interacting, and bringing that social element to the household, especially for a lot of our guys who live in flats. They don't necessarily have gardens. I'm very fortunate. I'm able to get outside and mess around with the kids and play sport and things. But it is hard if you just sat in your flat all day with nobody to interact with, and just staring at a laptop. So yeah, we've done as much as we can. Actually, the other Friday we ended up with 2 of the staff shaving their heads when we reached £1,000 charity donations for the NHS. So good things come of it, even though there's some terrible haircuts around.
But it sounds like, with your company, it's obviously quite a young company anyway, in terms of the culture that you had in the office before the lockdown. It sounds like games and sport was actually a part of the office as well. There was a bit of fun on a Friday afternoon by the sounds of it.
Yeah, we love sport, and it does resonate through everything. So in the office, we've got a pool table, we've got a table tennis table, and actually when we did the refurbishment in the office, Mark, my business partner, is a massive golf fan, so he actually got a little putting green put in. So there's non-stop competition and interaction happening. We've got a 5-a-side football team that are varying levels of ability, but it's all good fun. We've actually got IO on the back of the football shirt, so every other team thinks we're all number 10, but it does say IO. And then, and we've been involved at sort of sport at a more grassroots and amateur level as well. So we sponsor the Bristol Cricket Club, Totterdown Football Club, and more recently we've just got involved with Thornbury Cricket Club. So, it is a massive part of our life, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, I would have thought your father would have had a stern word if there wasn't any support of any cricket clubs in there.
Yeah, the cricket does run through the family, and now it's all about trying to get the twins involved in cricket as well. So there's lots of really good girls teams, and they're starting to play at school. So they're going for a few sort of coaching sessions in the nets with Grampy, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it can teach them a thing or two. I think was it the 1977 final that he excelled at?
Yeah, so I think in the 1977 Cup final, he won Man of the Match, and he made his debut season in 1973. They also won the One-Day Cup final at Lord's. So he had some good successes and played as part of a very successful Gloucestershire team that included the likes of Mike Proctor and Zahir Abbas and people like that. So he's fortunate to have a career and be very successful. It was tough could be tough playing in, trying to play and be in his shadow a little bit. Even when I was in the lounge at times, he'd be telling me off for the way my elbow looked when I was just picking up a cup of tea as opposed to picking up a cricket bat. But no, it's all good fun.
It is interesting, isn't it, how our parents shape what we become in terms of particularly offspring of professional sports people, because often people go one of two ways. They either follow them into that sport or they go into something completely different. How much do you think having a professional sportsman as a father helped mold you to be the entrepreneur? Because very often sports people do go into entrepreneurial businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. It was crucial because, I always saw him be successful and succeed at what he did. And it really put a winning mentality or an ambition into me where I did want to achieve. And if that wasn't necessarily going to be in the field of sport, I really wanted to be successful at whatever I did next. So when I first joined my first business and first recruitment business, I wanted to be the top of the leaderboards and do the most placements and build the best relationships. And that's something that's always kind of ran through what I've then gone on to do in business. And with IO the same, we're very aimed at being ambitious. We're looking to grow a US business this year. We'll be starting to do that from the 1st of May. Probably not the best time to be launching new divisions at the moment, but we see the markets there. We've got some brilliant talent we want to back to go and start that opportunity for us. So yeah, and I think the sport, the camaraderie that's created from sport, the ambition, the drive, that absolutely has run through everything that I've then taken into the business world.
And you've touched on the expansion plans for IO and the foray into the US market. Obviously it's a fairly difficult time in terms of how you see the economy and your sector particularly moving forward. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a very tough time. I think we have had to pivot into some different areas of recruitment. We've had to look at opportunities with new clients as opposed to some of our existing clients who put recruitment on hold. We're quite fortunate being heavily exposed to technology. People are able to be a bit more remote, and we're still seeing people hiring, but obviously our placement levels are down at the moment. Recruitment and talent is quite a good tracker for the market because the business world is picking up. People will be looking to hire again, so we're hopefully going to be looking at a bit of a bang out of the back of this sort of downward trend and the recession. But at the moment, nobody can tell when that's going to be or how long this is going to last. So for us, it's just a bit about being pragmatic, about looking for opportunities and keeping the business going, successfully as it had done up until the last sort of 6-8 weeks.
Yeah, and as you say, it's one of those industries that will bounce, but it's one of the first ones often to come back and is a marker of the recovery. So in terms of being Bristol-based, obviously it was a logical decision for you to move back to the West Country after travelling abroad and, as you mentioned, living in Australia. It is interesting in Bristol, there are a lot of recruitment companies based here. Is that because you think it is such a vibrant hub and obviously the tech sector is a big part of that?
Yeah, there's a massive tech community in the Southwest, and at IO we very much try and embed ourselves into that. So we run meetups, which currently are being virtual as opposed to face-to-face meetups. We've actually used the facilities at Ashton Gate before for tech leadership breakfasts, and we've used our box to get some CTOs and CEOs of tech companies in the Southwest together to discuss what's important in the tech world right now. So yeah, it's a massive tech hub. I think outside of London, it's one of the most exciting places to be based. And obviously, if there's a lot going on, then naturally there's a need for staffing and talent, and that's where the recruitment companies come in. There's obviously a lot of people kind of come to Bristol from the rest of the Southwest. We've got some excellent universities in Bristol as well, which is where we get a lot of our talent who work for us. So yeah, it's a great sort of spot to be trying to grow a business within tech, within recruitment, within any sector really.
Yeah, well, you've mentioned those sort of two core areas, but obviously engineering is also a big component of your business, as is the energy market. And again, there's some very well established and big companies in that sector here as well. Yeah,
absolutely. We're very fortunate to have big aerospace companies and businesses, and it's the supply chain that feeds off all those bigger companies that we can look to support as well. So it's a great spot, and having lived in Sydney for 4 years, it was going to take something special to come back to, and starting a really exciting business in a great market and economy at the time, and with some people that I trusted, were all the reasons that dragged me away from 4 years of beaches in Sydney and bringing my kids up on the outside and surf lifesaving and all that sort of thing. So no, it's great to be back. I've loved every minute of being back in Bristol, and being partnered with Bristol Sport has absolutely been sort of the icing on the cake, and helped our relationships with clients, helped my personal enjoyment of the city go even further.
Well, it's evident that sport plays a key part of your life. Obviously, it's been part of your formative years, and it's good to see that over your shoulder, your turbo trainer is there. You're still keeping active as well at home.
Yeah, it's certainly there. How much it gets used is another conversation, but it's definitely there to prove I can sometimes do some exercise.
Well, one of the footballers has told me that Zwift is the app that you have to have. That is the game changer, apparently. I have yet to download it. I find they're a really good clothes horse as well.
Yeah. To be fair, my twin daughters use it more than me, because when I tell them to try and get outside and do some exercise, they'll jump in here, and it means they can still watch an iPad, whatever, whilst they're doing their exercise. But no, it's good to have. And to be fair, lockdown, I've ended up doing probably more exercise than I have done since I finished my short cricket career. So I'm probably fitter now than I have been in 15 years, but unfortunately no sport to go and play and actually prove it. So yeah, back to the bike, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it is great to speak to you. Thanks for giving us that insight, and we look forward to having you back here at Ashton Gate Stadium soon.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for your time.
Well, that's it from me. Hope you enjoyed Meet the Boss. Do follow us on our social media channels so that you can stay up to date and across all of our latest news and information. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well.